Welcome back. And 3 games are in the books. And if you cheered for a home team, you came out of tonight pretty happy. I'm a happy camper. Now, I'm going to say this straight off. I know there's going to be people expecting me to be wearing Canucks gear for this review because it was Sedin night. I felt that it was more important to wear Kings since they don't win very often. And I've already worn a Canucks jersey once for a review this week. And I felt like I don't need to do that tonight. We will definitely be seeing a lot more about the Canucks over the next few weeks, I would think, because the Sedin thing clearly is working, so maybe they'll find a way to stretch it out. Let's start things off with Boston and Montreal. Now, keep in mind, I was coaching today, so uh, because I went to the kids' hockey, I was a little bit late coming into this one. As I came in, Boston had scored, and it was a beautiful pass by Marchand to Pastrnak. 6:59 makes it 1-0 for Boston. Boston then got a power play. But here's the thing, Carey Price had a pretty darn good game. He didn't get under the 3 stars tonight, but honestly, he was Montreal's best player. Now we get into the conversation about how much losing Shea Weber hurts Montreal in a game like this, where it's a physical battle. They need all the defense they can get because of the, I'm not going to call it that line, which has Bergeron, Marchand, and Pastrnak on it. But there were some moments in this where Montreal could have got it back. Domi's denied by Rask. That kid is snake bit. Like, I think he's got, 1 goal in 18 games? I'm feeling bad for Max Domi, and I see in the media, like, oh, could they move Domi? If Montreal decides to move Domi after having a down year this year, I don't know that he's as good as last year's totals, but I don't think he's as bad as this year's either. I think they'd be foolish to move him. The Habs pressed with 4 minutes left, and then Petrie had a fight with Marchand. It was a quick one. These guys didn't like each other very much, but Montreal and Boston didn't come out of tonight liking each other very much. And they actually went through the history between Chara and Gallagher, but we'll get to that. The Habs had a power play because Marchand got an extra 2 on that fight. So Marchand ends up leading to Boston being down a man. Second period, there was a 2-on-1 early on that led to Pastrnak scoring his 40th from Corrali at 4:16, so that ties him for the league leading goals. Yes, I did the stats video today. I talked about him falling off. That's why he got a hat trick tonight, because I have that ability. And it doesn't make me feel bad to be wrong on that one. I'm not necessarily wrong either. His goal scoring had been low over the last, I'll say, a couple of months. But when he gets things going, his goal streaks are pretty darn good. In case in point, almost 20 goals in his first 20 games. Scandella, however, would score 36 seconds later from Suzuki. And that was a desperately needed bounce back by Montreal, because it felt like Boston was getting ready to blow the game open. Price then denied Bjork. Bjork got every centimeter of that puck and drove it at the net, and Price denied him. The Habs then get a power play. And then at the start of the power play, and here's where the criticism of the refereeing is going to come in. Chara cross-checks Gallagher. And there were some theatrics by Chara after, thinking he threw his head back. Now, if you look on the replay, he does cross-check him in the neck. He does. And this is where you get into the history between Chara and Gallagher. Chara doesn't like Gallagher. Gallagher doesn't like Chara. These two go at it with each other, and then they both go to the box. Now, it was mentioned by Gary Galley that maybe Department of Player Safety looks at Chara's cross-check. They talked about it in between periods. It was believed that it's probably not a suspension, but this might be one of those ones the Department of Player Safety hands out a $5,000 fine on. So don't be surprised if Chara gets fined $5,000. And I know how everybody feels. I feel the same way about those $5,000 fines. I didn't even report the last one in the news of the day. But that seems to be the way the NHL goes with it. It's sort of like, hey, don't do this again. I don't know why it's there. It's supposed to be suspensions. But it does kind of make this game a bit of a powder keg. And it's fortunate that this game didn't really blow up. The Habs pressured it at 12 minutes. Krug with a fearless block of a puck there, which hurt him. It was a chippy affair. There was offsetting cross-checking penalties. I don't know if they were called cross-checks, but they were cross-checks. Sometimes you see 2 cross-checks, and then they're like interference, roughing, elbowing, and you're like, yeah, those are cross-checks. So I just put cross-checks on the board. I didn't care what they actually called them, because it was 4-on-4. And then Chara accuses Gallagher of a low bridge. Now, here's the thing. I got ahead of Gary Galley on this one. I got ahead of all the announcers on this one. I just put well and 3 dots because I'm thinking the height difference between Gallagher and Chara. Being a shorter guy myself, playing sports, it's very easy to low bridge a guy. You see somebody bigger than you coming, your reaction is to protect yourself. So you'll tuck the shoulder, deciding I need to not die. So Chara's bigger than a human. You see him coming, your natural reaction is to kind of duck down a little bit. So yeah, you're going to low bridge him because his knee is at the side right here, is at your forehead. So I don't think that Gallagher low bridged him. It certainly wasn't on purpose, and Chara wasn't happy, and he wasn't happy with Chara. And yeah, the Bruins end up getting a 4-on-3 power play. During that power play, Pastrnak scores from Bergeron and Marchand at 15:45. So before the end of the second period, he's got his 41st goal. He's got his 8th career hat trick. It's a power play goal. It extends his league lead in that area. And this is his second hat trick against Montreal this season. So then Domi hits a crossbar before the period's over. It's just, Domi cannot get one. And I do feel bad for the guy. He will start putting the puck in the net, I would think. He had numerous chances tonight, just denied. Absolutely, either he was robbed by Rask, who suddenly knows how to play Montreal. They showed the stats. He had been 0-9-3 at home against Montreal before this most recent run, where now he's 4-1-1 at home against Montreal in their last 6, I believe it is. So weird, right? So we go to the third period with the score 3-1 Boston. Gallagher was clearly a target of Boston's in that third period. They were needling at him and checking him and doing whatever they could to try to get him to take a penalty. The Habs end up getting a power play, but, and I believe this was McAvoy that they called the delay of game against, the puck did hit the glass, and I thought that was reviewable. I thought that was one of those ones that was reviewable. I thought you could review if it's a high stick, whether or not the guy high sticked himself or it was friendly fire, and I thought you could review the delay of game, that a coach could challenge it, but I guess not. After the kill, the Bruins get a power play of their own, and it was a really good back and forth first half of that period. And I thought Montreal, the score doesn't tell you just how well they played tonight. They did. They played a very good game, and Price was fantastic. Chara, Gallagher were going at it again in the second half. And I'm not sure who's more the instigator in it, Chara or Gallagher. It's just they get under each other's skin. They're drawn to each other like Tkachuk and Doughty, which ironically tonight didn't turn into much of anything. Price then denied more in close. They pull the goalie. They pull Carey Price with 2.5 minutes left. They call the timeout with 43 seconds left. But Bergeron would get the empty netter from Marchand at 19:40. They were trying to get Pastrnak his 4th goal. Just not able to quite get it. So Bergeron gets the empty netter, and Boston wins it 4-1. Price saved 34 out of 37. Like I said, he was excellent. Rask, 28 saves on 29 shots for him. Your 3 stars. Pastrnak, Rask, who no longer fears facing Montreal in Boston, and Marchand's your 3rd star. Power plays, 0 for 3 for Montreal, 1 for 3 for Boston. Shots, 11-10 Boston in the first, 15-9 Boston in the second, 12-10 Boston in the third. Final shots, 38-29 in favor of the Bruins. And a good home performance by the Boston Bruins. Very good. This was honestly a great game. Very good game. And honestly, I thought Montreal probably deserved a better fate. I thought they played pretty well. Next up, Calgary. Boy, you want to talk about teams that may have deserved a better fate. I don't know what happens here, and I don't know how you fix this. There are issues going on with the Calgary Flames that troublingly could lead to them missing the playoffs. They are now sitting 1 point above that playoff line, or should I say still sitting 1 point above that playoff line. They don't have the game in hand on Vegas anymore, so they drop below Vegas. And they have to worry about Winnipeg being 1 point back, Minnesota 4 points back, and Nashville's still there at 5 points back. And yes, Chicago's still there 6 points back. We'll get to Chicago. But in this game, it's kind of indicative of how their season's gone. Early chance for the Flames. The Flames get a power play. Trevor Moore gets a shorthanded breakaway. Moore is playing very well with LA, and it reminds me a lot of Josh Levo when he got to Vancouver last year. Now, I don't think Moore is going to score as many points as Levo because LA doesn't score that level of goals. But tonight, they did okay. Kings were ahead in shots, but they can't score. And this is the storyline. They even talked about how Todd McClellan likes the game that his team's been playing, even though they'd lost 9 out of 10 coming into tonight. He thought they've been playing well, they just can't score. And it's a storyline that I've given for the Kings almost every game of theirs that I've reviewed over the last couple of months. Defense, good. Goaltending, fine. They just can't score. Peterson, I should say, then denied Backlund. So we entered the second period, and it's 0-0. Early pressure by the Kings. Peterson poke checked Gaudreau in close. Nice play by Gaudreau, and Peterson cross-checked him. So for Gaudreau, frustrating night at that stage. He would get a couple of helpers before the night's out, but he still looks frustrated tonight, and for the most part. McDermott. Yeah, it's not McDavid. McDavid didn't get traded to the Kings. Don't worry. McDermott then has a fight with Lucic, which Lucic seemed to enjoy quite a bit. I was reading his lips when he was in the penalty box, and he seemed to think that's going to get her going. There was a near goal by Brown off of a pass by Moore. And then, at this point, the shots were 10-2 for Calgary. 10-2 at 9 minutes. And then Backlund would score from Tkachuk at 11:37, and you feel like, okay, the Flames are ahead. Here we go. They've had the lion's share of the shots in the second period to this point. They want it. They're on the road. They desperately need this. They know they need to stay close to Vancouver, maintain a lead on Vegas, and tie Edmonton. This is a really important game. Less than a minute later, Toffoli scores from Kopitar and Iafallo at 12:21. That's not a great way to keep things going. And then 39 seconds later, Wagner on a breakaway gets a goal from Lewis. And Riddick, he was not happy with the defense. Basically, here's the thing. So we don't know what Riddick said, and I'm going to backtrack a bit. After the goal, he looked towards the bench. And either it's, I can't believe I allowed that, or we've got to get it together. And then during a TV timeout, you saw him talking to players at the bench. And it may very well be that he was kind of like, I can't believe I didn't get that, or I can't believe what's going on. We had the lead and then we didn't. But regardless, he was not a happy camper. I like Riddick for that. He's a throwback goaltender, guy who wears his heart on his sleeve, and you can really tell how a game's going just from his reactions. There was a late Kings power play, which led to a scrum involving Matthew Tkachuk. So Tkachuk takes the penalty, and there's a big scrum after, and then they showed Doughty, and Doughty was just laughing at it. Doughty thought it was hilarious that Tkachuk was taking a penalty and going to the box. So while these two didn't directly, at any point in the game that I was watching, they didn't directly go at one another, there was definitely some heat between them, and this is not over. This was just a break between their feud, and next season it'll pick up all over again. Peterson then stopped Backlund shorthanded. So Backlund had a nice shorthanded chance, and Peterson denied him. Peterson had a very good game through 2 periods. It's 2-1 LA, even though the shots in that second period favored Calgary. Third period, McDermott scores early from Lizotte and Brown at 1:42, and that got the crowd really going. It seemed to fire up the Flames, and of course McDermott's the one that had the fight with Lucic. So that's he's 2/3 of a way to a Gordie Howe hat trick. The Flames need a massive comeback. I put that on the board. And then Lindholm scores from Ryan and Gaudreau at 3:25. And then right after getting that goal to make it 3-2, they pushed for the tie. They get a power play. The shots were 12-6 for the Flames, 13.5 minutes into the period. Just couldn't quite get that past Cal Peterson. Peterson continues to be, it's way too early in his career for me to say he's one of my favorite goaltenders. But I do like Cal Peterson. I liked him last year. I saw him in Vegas. I thought, this kid looks like he's ready. I hope he gets his chance. And he didn't complain at all this year when he ended up in the American League. And now he's being rewarded with ice time. And he was very good tonight. So Carter would score from Kempe and Ferk at 15-12. I love when Ferk gets on the board. And then that's where Riddick breaks his stick. We saw that coming. David Riddick not happy again, whether it was with the situation, whether it was with himself, whether it was with the guys in front of him. Riddick, not a happy camper. So they pull the goalie, because it's what you do in this situation. And then Lindholm would score during that 6-on-5 from Gaudreau and Anderson at 16:55. So Johnny Hockey gets himself a couple of assists tonight, including on that 6-on-5. But Probably not overly happy with the way this game goes tonight. So they pull the goalie again. Peterson denied Lucic as Milan Lucic continues this. He had a good game too. And I think Lucic is playing the best hockey he's played now since he was an Oiler that first year. That first year in Edmonton. I think this is the best he's played. But it's Walker from his own end of the ice. Kopitar with the assist. That's at 19:57. The interesting thing was there were 4 seconds left on the clock, so they did a little bit of check, and they put 4 seconds back on the clock. And Rudy says, well, yeah, this is a chance now for the Flames to score, and I thought, or for LA to hit the empty net, because 8 seconds is plenty of time for the puck to go the length of the ice. And then it did. So Walker with a goal, Kopitar with another helper. That's 2 points for him. And there we go. The LA Kings beat the Flames, playing spoiler tonight, 5-3. They've had this miserable run. This definitely helps them. Riddick saves 28 out of 32. Peterson saves 35 out of 38. Your 3 stars are McDermott, right? McDermott with a fight and a goal. Peterson and Roy. So big night for the Kings. And yet when you look at the shots, 13-8 for the Kings in the first, and then it's Flames after that, 14-11 in the second, and 16-9 in the third. Final shots 38-33 in favor of the Calgary Flames. Power plays, the Flames go 0 for 3, which is a story, and the Kings go 0 for 1. So the Kings, who've had trouble killing penalties this year, not tonight. Good night for them. All right, moving along. All right, so this is kind of a story in and of itself. So the Sedins, they have their ceremony tonight. Kevin Bieksa upstages everybody. Bieksa will be invited to many weddings, maybe funerals, bar mitzvahs, anything you can imagine, any kind of gathering of people. They may go, can we get Bieksa to come in and talk at this, because he's amazing. Some of the stories you told tonight, he was great. So of course now I'm flipping over to this game because this game's on, and I'm watching this game as well, but I'm trying to watch as much of this as I can because of course tonight they were retiring the numbers 22 and 33. And all those banners across the ceiling, and the fact that they're all the right colors now, it just looks so much better. It really, really does. But with all of that going on, and John Garrett mentions, usually these guys are out and they're doing their warm-ups and everything, and this kind of throws things off because the NHL says you can have this big ceremony, but you got to start the game on time. You can't delay the game. And I agree with that. There's nothing more frustrating than a 7 o'clock start that becomes a 7:45 because of a pregame ceremony. So you can't be doing that. And it showed, though, that the Canucks weren't really quite ready. And I don't know that they ever really fully got into this game, and yet, here we are. Early Hawks power play, and the Canucks were down 5-0 in shots. I think that was at 3 minutes. And I had this sinking feeling oh, not this game. They're not going to have this game. Markstrom stopped Kubalik. Kubalik had some fantastic chances tonight, couldn't buy a goal. The shots were 10-0 for the Hawks 7.5 minutes into this. It was the Markstrom show. Basically, Markstrom is the only reason that this game goes in Vancouver's favor. I don't have a Markstrom jersey. If I did, I might have wore Canucks tonight because this is Markstrom's game, not the Canucks. I even saw it tweeted out by one of the reporters in Vancouver. Basically, the Canucks lineup sheet for tonight, and it was just a blank sheet with Markstrom at the bottom. The shots being as they were, the first shot for Vancouver was at 9:56 of the first period. That made the shots 13-1. Yeah. So all I kept thinking was, it'll be an absolute shame if Markstrom is a wall like this and the Canucks don't reward him. Crawford stopped Eriksson. Nice chance for Eriksson. I thought Louis had a decent game tonight. The Hawks said goal. The referee said no. Said goalie interference. And then they challenged it. I wasn't sure what they challenged it for. It's one of those goalie interferences where it's not a penalty, but you can't argue that the goaltender had a really decent chance to make the save and that there wasn't a player in the crease interfering with the play. So they actually didn't review it for very long. It was a quick review by today's standards. And they say, all right, that's a failed challenge, which means the Canucks get the power play. And it works. Bo Horvat scores from Sutter and Miller, 15:33. Nice goal by Horvat, and the Canucks have absolutely no business being ahead in this game. None. The only reason? Jacob Markstrom. Second period. Early Hawks power play. The Hawks have all the momentum. They have tons of shots. Everything's going their way until Gaudette scores from Roussel and Suter at 6:25. So somehow, some way, the Canucks are up 2-0. And I was bewildered at this point. The Hawks get a power play, and I kept thinking, at some point, they're going to be allowing way too many shots. Like, I love Markstrom as much as anybody else, but eventually, one of them's going to go in, because you got Kane out there, and he looks dangerous as all get out. The shots were 29-10 for Chicago at that point. Doc hit Roussel. Roussel was knocked into the boards, looked kind of hurt, but he stayed in the game. Then Pearson had a fight with Kajula. That's Pearson's first fight with Vancouver. Apparently the fourth of his career. The last time he had a fight apparently was last year with Evander Kane before he came to Vancouver. So, yeah, I don't know. Pettersson then had a breakaway that was stopped. He also had the rebound, which was stopped as well. Power play for the Canucks. But the Hawks dominating in shots. The one key thing, Markstrom was not allowing rebounds. Those shots were being absorbed. There was no kicking the puck out, knocking it into the corner, sending it back out front. On the rebound, they get another one. This was Markstrom catching it, blocking it, covering it, and doing whatever he could to make sure there wasn't that second chance. Huge difference between that and a goaltender that's constantly giving up those rebounds. Third period, power play for the Hawks again. And that comes off of a penalty taken by Gaudette, which led to a fight between Gaudette and Murphy, which Gaudette did okay in. So Gaudette, a fight and a goal tonight. There's a lot of guys who seem to want to have that Gordie Howe hat trick. And it feels like, and I don't know if it's necessarily true, feels like we're seeing more and more fights now as the games get lower scoring for the most part, and they become more important. We're seeing more guys willing to drop the gloves, which is good for hockey. So that happens, and then there was a crossbar for Kane, and I felt like the Canucks absolutely playing with fire. This is not the way you want to be defending. You want to be defending at their end of the ice. You've got the lead. Go to the other end of the ice and kill the time down there. Shots were 6-0 for Chicago at 5 minutes into the third period. So again, Vancouver with a 2-0 lead and a chance to really lock it down, they're just not generating shots. Power play for the Canucks. It was Jonathan Toews that got the penalty on that one. Toews seems to get penalties. I will say this, though. That was a weak call. And it was a weak call because they felt that the Gaudette call might have been a weak call and it might have been an even up by the referee. There were no shots for the Canucks halfway through the period, and the shots were up to 8-0 for Chicago at that stage. Zach Smith got hurt towards the end of the second period, and rumor is, and I don't know how accurate this is, that he may have been cut by a skate because he dropped his glove and took off and went straight to the dressing room. Towards the end of the second period, he did not return in the third. So we'll see tomorrow if I have another news of the day where I'm talking about guys getting cut by skates. It's a fluke thing. It is. It's not one of those things that I could say, oh, they need more protection like I do with facial protection with pucks. Skate cuts are that's just a freak thing. And there's only so much you can do. Skate blades are brutal. The Hawks then get their fifth power play. It'll be their final power play, and they don't score on it, which is a story. The Canucks, though, I felt were really, really guilty of sitting on the lead. Like this, I've talked about other teams sitting on leads. The Canucks were masters of it tonight, of just, we might be able to get it out, but we're better off just icing the puck. We're at center, let's just dump it into their end. It felt like they weren't taking that extra step to make sure that Markstrom wouldn't face another 15 pucks. Which, if you're Markstrom, you've got to want to throw your water bottle at them. Just a little bit. Just or splash them in the face with the water. Just like, hey, wake up. You, wake up. Hey, you, come here. Wake up. You're not going to splash me, are you? No, come here. Wake up. Stupid. So, pull the goalie with 3 minutes left. They being Chicago, of course. Because if the Canucks pull the goalie, puck's going in a second later. And then Sutter gets the empty netter at 17:51. I have been a defender of Brandon Sutter all year, and it feels like tonight was a good night for him. He gets a goal and 2 assists. He has taken Besser's spot on the power play, and now there's a problem. He's doing very well in that spot on the power play. It's freed up Horvat into the middle. Horvat scoring on the power play. It's starting to look like Besser might have been what was holding back that power play. So we'll see what happens when Besser comes back. Don't take Sutter out of this spot. Goal and 2 assists, fantastic. Yes, I agree, he's overpaid, all of that. I'm not blinded by his contract. I think sometimes there's fans in Vancouver that because he's overpaid, they just don't want him in the lineup. They're like, he's no good, he doesn't do anything for us. That's just not true. Crawford saved 17 out of 19. I thought it was funny when the first two shots he faced in the third period were from the other end of the ice during the Hawks power play from Alex Edler, from his own zone. Ugh. Markstrom's your first star because of course he is. John Garrett said he would have been second and third if he had a choice. Sutter's second star and a third star he gave to Patrick Kane. Normally in a 3-0 shutout, I'd say, why do you give the third star to a guy from the other team? Because Kane had 8 shots. The only reason he didn't have a couple of goals and an assist tonight is Markstrom. So I totally get him being third star. Markstrom's 5th career shutout. Remember how long it took him to get that first one? I am so glad when Markstrom gets shutouts now. It feels so good. Because he did struggle for so long where he'd have a shutout into the last minute and then they'd blow it. 49 saves to get the shutout, which is a new Canucks record in a shutout by a goaltender with Roberto Luongo in attendance. It was great to see Roberto back tonight. It was great to see everybody back tonight. Yes, Ryan Kessler as well. I love seeing everybody back tonight. That was a great experience. Fantastic. Shots, first, second, and third were like this. Chicago, Chicago, Chicago. Not kidding. 17-7 in the first, 16-8 in the second, and 16-5 in the third. Final shots, 49-20. Power play, Chicago 0 for 5, and Vancouver 1 for 3. Markstrom, whatever they give you as a free agent during the summer, it's not enough. And Markstrom has earned a run as the Canucks starter based on his play this year. I would be very surprised if Jim Benning doesn't sit down with him very soon and talk extension. I'm thinking 4 years. I'm thinking with the way he's been playing right now, 4 years should be just fine. And I don't know what you give him, but boy howdy, he has played extremely well this year. And I've got to agree with on Twitter, I saw X-Tech answering a Hawks fan who said, is he playing this way all year or is this just a one-off? And he said he's been playing this way all year and he should be in the Vezina conversation. He's right. He's absolutely right. Markstrom has been awesome. I'm not saying win it. I'm saying be in the conversation. That being said, we're all done. The Canucks moved 3 points ahead of the Oilers, 5 points ahead of Vegas and Calgary and Arizona. Little bit of breathing room. I'd like to see a little bit more. They don't play again until Sunday when they play Anaheim. And for Calgary, tough result with 64 points. LA gets to 45, so they're only 19 out of the playoffs. And for Montreal, they stay 7 points behind Toronto for that third spot. And the playoffs become a little bit more of a challenge now for Montreal. And they do for Chicago as well, as they're now 6 points back. And their momentum seems to be gone that they had just a couple weeks ago. But let me know your thoughts as always. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching this, for all your support. You guys are amazing. And so ends another night of hockey. Tomorrow, big day, 11 games. I will talk to you again soon.